everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Cartoon Buffoons. I'm your host, Wyatt, and felicitations, malefactors! I'm endeavoring to misappropriate the formulary for the preparation of affordable comestibles. Who will join me?
Hello, I'm Morgan. I'm a black-coated alien from OKKO.
And who is our very special guest for today's
Hey,
episode?
I'm Nick, and thank you for having me on. You might know me from Nicktendo Reviews. It's my YouTube channel, and I like SpongeBob a reasonable amount, I think.
Yeah, I was like, there's literally nobody else I could possibly choose to be on an episode talking about SpongeBob, so Nick has to pick up the phone, please.
Yeah,
and then he did, and then now we're here and we're talking about SpongeBob, and now people may be like, why are you talking about SpongeBob? It's Cartoon Buffoons. You're talking about Cartoon Network shows. Well, April Fools. We decided that for this entire month, we are going to be talking about Nickelodeon shows as a little side quest. Robot Boy was so bad that we had to pivot mid-episode to talk about My Life as a Teenage Robot instead, and talked about that for 2 times the runtime that we talked about Robot Boy.
Yeah. Honestly, it was so bad, we might not go back. Keep an eye out. Let's see what May has in store, because Robot Boy was so bad, maybe fuck Cartoon Network. Who knows?
Absolutely not.
I do want to say, Nick, I'm glad we got you for this.
Mm-hmm.
We did call Patchy the pirate, and he said no.
Yeah,
that's true.
But
he's a tough
I'm
customer.
glad we got you for this.
Oh, shit. Oh.
The second
We could have gotten Tom
SpongeBob
Kenny.
fan of
Oh,
all
I
time,
have his phone number. We should have.
Tom Kenny and Patchy the pirate are 2 different people. Wyatt.
Okay.
Don't make me.
Yeah,
don't
sorry.
fucking piss me off. Don't piss me off, dude.
No, I appreciate it. I feel like being the guy who quotes SpongeBob in most conversations. I just had a conversation with my friend Claire, and she was like, Nick, I feel like you reference SpongeBob a lot, and I was not even trying to.
Yeah.
But
I think it's just like, it's
the most
that's
quotable
true
show
for
ever.
our, like you're a little bit younger than us, but that is also true for like us.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like I'm on that border where it's like, yes, some Simpsons quotes get in there, but it's mostly SpongeBob, and then so it's very funny, but it's also mostly like season 1 through 3, which is probably what we're going to be focusing on today. We can talk about the other seasons after, but for the purposes of homework, I was just like,
We only did 1 through 3.
it's fine. Just watch 1, 2, and 3. It's all good.
Who knows? Maybe next year we'll do 4, 5, and 6. Who knows? But
Or
yeah,
the entire rest of it. But yeah, go ahead, Morgan.
I do think that like when it comes to like shows that people quote and know, SpongeBob is the show. Like I think that like no matter the age, like I know people who are 19 that quote SpongeBob bits. I know people who are 30. I know people who are 26. I know people who are close to 40. Like it's just like it's a show that we all remember the specific bits from and phrases. And it's also a fucking meme machine. You can't run across the internet for longer than 2 hours without running into a screen cap of SpongeBob in this day and age.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, for sure.
yeah,
Like,
and I think it's partially just because it's always been on. Like it's always been in reruns. It's always had a internet presence. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember watching a lot of season 3 when it was new, and I was like 7 years old, or whatever. So, in like season 2 even, it's just like, it's crazy to like even like wrap my head around the impact that SpongeBob had. So that's why I'm like, I have no idea how long this episode's going to be, but we need to do it. If we're going to do a Nickelodeon like mini series as a joke, we could have picked like nothing shows. Like we could have picked like
I would say we did.
It's Pony or fucking, whatever, like Making Fiends, as I've joked about multiple times before.
I've been threatened to make a Making Fiends video by one of my friends. Yeah. He just constantly brings up, you should do a Making Fiends video. And I'm like, it'd have to tie into something. There'd have to be like a reason.
Yeah, because it's not like a long. It's like 6 episodes. There's barely.
Yeah.
There's not that much content to talk about in the Making Fiends front. So I don't know how you could get like a video past the 15-minute mark with that.
Yeah, my only thought would be to do like a web cartoons that became actual cartoons video.
Oh, that's yeah.
But then it would be weird to go from Making Fiends to Hazbin Hotel and Bee and Puppy Cat. Like, it would get nasty really quickly, no matter how I try to like order it or organize it. So, well, we'll see later down the line. But it's a potential thing. I think my Making Fiends friend will finally get their wish eventually.
You could also do like shows that we watched on Nicktoons,
right?
Like,
yeah, Kappa Mikey. And
Kappa Mikey.
Yeah, that's a great thing that wants to revisit. It's definitely aged very well.
I think it was like aged bad when it was released.
Right.
I don't think it ever was good. I think it's just like, damn.
Man. But okay.
It's like putting milk on the shelf and it rots right away. Like, oh shit, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
But
But Nick, you're the SpongeBob guest. You're the guy that I chose. What is your connection with SpongeBob? Like, what is your history with it?
Okay, so I guess where do you start? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think I was in probably like preschool or kindergarten, and I want to say it's like 2006, 2007. And there's always kids walking around with like SpongeBob backpacks, and stuff like it's around. I'm aware of it. I don't really know what it is, and
Bob
I think,
Sponge.
Yeah, my mom starts. She's like, "Oh, you should. You know, all the kids seem to be into this. You should check out this SpongeBob thing." And I think the first episode I watched was Wet Painter's Krusty Krab training video. And it single-handedly ruined my life. Like, that's a life-changing event.
Man, that is a good episode.
Yeah, it also happens to be, like, top 5. Probably the best pairing of episodes in the whole show. That and, like,
God, it's so good.
That and, like, I think Chocolate with Nuts and Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 5 is probably the only other, like, these episodes are both some of the best in the whole show. And from there, it became a problem. Like, it was kind of an obsession, where I would, like a year, I would always get like SpongeBob stuff for my birthday. I became the SpongeBob guy, and it would be something I think for years, maybe like a year or two, it was like one of the only shows I watched, just because at that point they were like, I don't know, like, I think season 4 was ending around the time I jumped in, so it's weird because all of I consider season 4 like, you know, I now know the difference between seasons. I can identify what episodes are from what season pretty well, but season 4 was just kind of mixed in there among all the classic episodes, and season 5 was the new stuff. So I feel like that's a kind of an interesting way, and I feel like people sometimes take that for granted, because if you're watching SpongeBob, you're never really absorbing it in order. I feel like it's like a show you wouldn't really binge unless you're doing something like this podcast, something like that. Yeah.
Because like I mean, I'll get into it when I talk about my history, but like season 1 in like a lot of season 2 wasn't real. I was just like, oh, those are just SpongeBob. I wasn't like, oh yes, this is a season 1. I was like, why does Patrick look different in this one? You know, like,
oh, I remember the pilot always looking off because it's like different production basically, and always kind of wondering, why does this look older than the other episodes? And now I know it's just because it was different resources, because it's a pilot and it's just packaged with the rest of the show. I didn't notice it until, weirdly enough, until this time around, but like
Tom Kenny just sounds like a normal guy as SpongeBob, and a lot of the early episodes, but especially in the pilot, he's just talking like this, like that's...
it's a slight voice, but like it's weird because it's not like the iconic SpongeBob voice. I also mentioned about the pilot since we're talking about it. They took Squidward's blue away. It bugged me out. He was so teal in that pilot, like so deeply teal, and now he's like. They took his only like form of happiness. They took away from him. They drained him. Yeah. They took his happiness away. Even more so. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's so you became like, the kid that's just like obsessed instead of like, Thomas the Tank Engine or something. You just became obsessed with. Yeah. SpongeBob.
I think I kind of ended up like I think I kind of won because there are things that are like cultural dead ends that I could have gotten obsessed with, or things that have become more niche like Power Rangers or Ninja Turtles, and there were definitely I knew a Ninja Turtles kid in like when that 2007 CGI movie was coming out. That was his time, but my time never really ended. Because now SpongeBob is cultural ubiquitous,
Am I offended? Am I offended? I'm trying to figure out if I'm offended. I'm like you're like I could have been into something more niche and lame like Power. I'm like,
I'm not saying it's.
I'm kidding.
I'm not saying it's lame. I'd never use the word. I'm just saying that it's not as like. Well known. Like, people.
It doesn't have the clout that I have as a SpongeBob.
People are not entering work group chats with Power Rangers gifs. Like I can, if you talk to most people, it's not the kind of thing where. I'm trying to think of a good example.
They remember it, but they're not like quoting it to you the way they do SpongeBob. Yeah. I do think, however, there's a world where Power Rangers is that popular, and I don't want to live in it. That sounds like dog shit. And I love Power Rangers, but that sounds fucking
I would say
awful.
Power Rangers is such a stupid. I mean, I've talked about this all the time. It's such a stupid artifact of like that era that the fact that people still want more Power Rangers is kind of
why they can't hear our takes on this. They
don't get mad at because you can just watch. First of all, you can watch every Sentai subbed like that was adapted into Power Rangers throughout the 90s. You just watch them on Shout Factory. So
Wyatt, let people enjoy their relic of when America was somehow more isolationist and racist.
Right.
Let them enjoy their relic of that.
Also, Haim Saban, Zionist. So let's get it. Let's just get that, and not like these other people, which are just like he's donating a shit ton of money. Anyway, this is beyond the scope of this SpongeBob episode.
Yeah. We're gonna go back to talk about Nick Bob
right,
Tendo Pants. You were the SpongeBob kid.
Like as a Transformers kid, like there came a time in like 2007 with the movie and everything that it was like a big deal. But I would say like it's diminishing returns after that point. I don't know how those movies kept making so much fucking money because I didn't hear anybody talking about Transformers like after the first movie.
You are so, as someone who was in boarding school at the time.
Yeah.
It was like pulling teeth to, for lack of a better term, know ball, and have people who don't know ball because they've seen those movies try to talk to me about them.
Yeah.
I was a shitty fucking middle schooler. I was like, hey, no offense, pal, but you don't know dick about shit about Rodimus Prime.
Yeah.
So until you know about Rodimus Prime, don't talk to me about those Bay movies, bro.
Yeah.
Like that's the mindset I was in.
You haven't watched Headmasters subtitled. But anyway.
You call him Optimus Prime. Ugh.
I like that I just pulled Transformers and Power Rangers out of my... I didn't even say Transformers.
You did. No. Me and Wyatt will bring up Transformers no matter what. You didn't even say it.
Yeah.
But we took offense and brought up Transformers. But
right.
But no, you're right. Like there is like if you know SpongeBob deeply and quote it, you don't have to live through the fear of having people awkwardly look at you and not understand your quote.
Yeah.
Most humans will know what you're fucking talking about.
It's become to the point where I didn't watch SpongeBob growing up, or my parents didn't let me watch SpongeBob growing up, is becoming a meme. Just based on how common it is and how much of a weirdo you seem if you don't understand someone's SpongeBob reference.
Yeah.
Real. That's so real.
Which... I can unfortunately relate to.
I can't count the amount of times that I have like sat down for lunch in the break room and just said holographic meal. I can't even finish the quote. I just love Plankton too much. He just makes me laugh by talking. But yeah, just so many. We'll just be like in the middle of a conversation, just like as a vocal stim, I'll say a SpongeBob quote to just like fill the silence. It's just like it's ingrained into our memories. Morgan, what is your history?
My history of SpongeBob is the basic level of I was a living, breathing human when SpongeBob was going crazy. I was never a Nickelodeon kid. I just didn't want to watch a lot of Nickelodeon. It just wasn't for me. It didn't have enough edge.
Yeah.
Like Cartoon Network had
the rocket power. Come on.
Come on.
Yeah.
Listen, look, they were writers on a mission, but it wasn't for me. I just wasn't feeling it. But I did watch SpongeBob, and SpongeBob was like consistently funny. Like there's a lot of times, like as a kid, I remember watching a cartoon and just having it be background noise. But SpongeBob would be something that like when the jokes were joking, I had to like peel myself away from whatever I was doing, like like the mock trial I was doing with my action figures or dolls to watch the episode. Like, hold on. Let's take a recess on this court case where Barbie's suing the Red Power Ranger. What's happening on this television show? I vividly remember doing stuff like that to absorb the show. So yeah, like I've always loved SpongeBob. I was never like I don't know. I never like seeked it out, like in my older life. Like I never went, let me see an episode of SpongeBob. If it was on, I knew it was something to have on in the background, and that kind of like stayed in my relationship with it up until like my 20s actually. Yeah. Like if I'm doing something in the house, just in the SpongeBob episode on, put it on. Like I like to this day, like until recently, my brain can't even separate like seasons of SpongeBob. SpongeBob is just in existence. It's like it's a creature almost,
That's kind of true
that
because
exists
there was
in some way.
A lot of times when I was watching episodes, I was like, "Oh, this is in season 2. I thought this was in season 3," and then like vice versa. Like Chocolate with Nuts, I thought was in season 2. Like there's just a lot of these where I was very surprised. I was also surprised, because we've given a lot of lip service, if you know what I'm saying, towards Green Blatch for being a great board artist on the shows that we have talked about that he's been on. We're going to give a lot more about him soon in this miniseries, so don't you worry. But him and Aaron Springer as board partners on a lot of like the best episodes of all time, and Meriwether Williams. I was just like surprised that they came in. Like I always associate them with season 3. But they came in right there in season 2, which is like very early on into the, into that series. And like that is not to say that's like season 1 isn't good and then season 2 gets good because they have this like one pair of board artists that are extremely good. Season 1, incredible, still so funny. It's still like, even though it's like more low key than and like less absurdist and stupid than like it would get, still just such an amazingly well written, like funny show. I think that this is why it's like a step above in like humor and sophistication to Rocko's Modern Life. It feels like they took all the lessons from that show and then just like upped the ante a bit, and then you got this, and it's like a fresh start with new characters, a new world, and everything, and it just like it took all the good lessons of that and it just like nailed it. It just feels like such a good first season, so fully formed. Like none of the characters feel like out of character from how you remember them. Maybe like Sandy early on is a little bit generic, like in her first episode when she shows up, she's just like, she isn't 100%.
She's nice.
Exactly,
there isn't a lot to
like,
Sandy super early on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you mean. She's like the straight man in some of the episodes. I watched the Muscle Bob Buff Pants one, and she's definitely just kind of like SpongeBob was knocking against her in the plot. Like she's kind of in a reactionary role. but she doesn't do a lot. But then you get like Karate Choppers, and she's far more active. And then Sandy's Rocket introduces the science stuff, which basically becomes like the dominant part of her character after the movie,
definitely.
especially.
Yeah,
I do think it's like, even in the episode she's not very active though. I do think it's funny that they do set up, at least in some dialogue, the two traits of Sandy that I think is very funny to have for this character, which is that she's one, smart, and two, buff and strong as shit and can beat you up.
Yeah.
I just think that's like that's like a combination of traits you don't see in cartoons really. Let alone for like his one girlfriend to have as her two traits.
Yeah.
And I think it actually makes it so there's like a shift in a lot of the early seasons where who is the straight man changes based on who's together.
Right.
SpongeBob is able to be the straight man with Patrick because Patrick is off the fucking edge.
Yeah.
You know? Like even if SpongeBob, and the thing is, they don't bring SpongeBob down either to like be more normal. SpongeBob is able to play at his normal level. Like the episode about the Sunday and SpongeBob stinking. SpongeBob isn't less silly in that episode. Patrick is just 1,000 times more silly.
Yeah.
And I think like having like Sandy also works a similar way. Sandy's doing very silly things while weightlifting and stuff like that in the Muscle Bob episode, right? But it's still normal when compared to what SpongeBob's doing.
Yeah.
There's like this beautiful sliding scale of straight manness in the show that I think is really cool. Like it's Squidward's the most straight man, then Mr. Krabs, then Sandy, then SpongeBob, then Patrick. And I think it's like so neat because when those characters interact, you can tell where the most annoying combination is. It's why I think Squidward hates Patrick the most. Because every episode they're together, Squidward's like on the edge of like, let's just say doing a murder and then doing something else to himself.
Yeah.
Like he's like on the, it's really good.
And I would say like there's even the rare case where they can be like Sandy can be in the role of being like the lunatic.
Right, I was thinking
Because-
pre-hibernation
so-
week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Survival
yes,
of the
that's a good
Idiots,
one.
Right,
where
yeah.
she's a raging beast. One of the funny, I mean, that was one that I remember watching all the time, like on VHS, like recorded, and then just like watching that. It's just so many, like, again, I mean, I can get into my history, but yeah, I think it's a thing that, you know, I just watched because it was on. We didn't have cable at we lived in a trailer as when I was a little kid, so very poor, and no cable, just VHS tapes of Don Bluth movies and whatever, you know, Once Upon a Forest and other 90s garbage, you know, Quest for Camelot, whatever, and whenever we would go visit my grandma on the weekend, we would watch SpongeBob. She loved SpongeBob. I think she also just loved watching something with her grandchildren, but she also would laugh hysterically at SpongeBob episodes, as did my mom. And, you know, even my dad to this day still quotes SpongeBob episodes to me, you know, which is, it's just like a whole, like we all just love, we grew up with it, we just love it. And it became like a ritual every Sunday going over to my grandma's and watching SpongeBob. And that lasted like pretty late. I would say probably until season 5. We would be watching, you know, at that point I was like 12 or 13. And then, you know, unfortunately that's around when my grandma passed away. She passed away pretty young just due to cancer. And that, like, I still just very much associate SpongeBob with her, but we, you know, she took us to see the movie when it came out, which is fantastic. I mean, it's just a great movie. It's just like it's a good movie. It's a good, like, you know, like culmination of like those early years. Some say it would make like a really good finale, you know, whatever, you know, I don't necessarily, because I like the second SpongeBob movie too, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, I also think that that's a really good. I have not seen Sponge on the Run, the third movie, but I really like the first two. And I don't know, isn't there like a Sandy movie or something that was like leaked entirely?
There's a
like
Sandy movie that came out. Yeah. It came out last summer officially. And
Okay.
we're recording this early into March, but by the time this is out, I guess there's going to be a Plankton movie on Netflix, which I think my review is that the Plankton movie actually pretty good. But Sandy does some interesting things, but kind of a weird, like, I want to say, like, executive-driven kind of feeling movie. You can feel that with Sponge Out of Water a little bit, too. But, that has, like, live-action stuff that doesn't really gel with the characters, and a premise that is very straight, does some weird things with Sandy's character, even though it's not really trying to, and simplifies her character. It does a bunch of weird stuff. Plankton movie does interesting, really cool stuff with Karen, I think, who is super...
because they start using her a lot later in the show.
Yeah. It took a couple years. It's weird to track the evolution of characters in some ways early on, because, like, things that I, like, always assume with SpongeBob, like, I know what Chum looks like, or Karen, like, having her mobile form, like, where she kind of, like, is a... Yeah, like the TV. Yeah, as a TV on wheels. Those don't show up until, like, the movie or after the movie, which is weird. But, a lot of things afterwards. But, with the movies, I do feel like that first... I had, like, a weird... There were years where I thought... I feel like there are valid reasons to prefer the second movie, Sponge Out of Water, over the first. Just because it's like, well, the first one, like, streamlines the silliness a little bit for the sake of having a good story, which is, like, makes sense because it's a movie and it's satisfying. But I do like Sponge Out of Water peeling it back a bit and being like, it does feel like every 11 minutes is a different episode. But
that's true. That's a good point, because I didn't even think about that until you mentioned it. But, like, the first movie does feel like they had to make a movie. Yeah. Like, they had to sort of, like, these characters are like this, these, whatever. Like, SpongeBob and Patrick, they are the silly ones. And, everybody else is whatever. Like, they kind of have a little bit of their personality in the TV, but, like, SpongeBob and Patrick feel, like, very exaggerated. Whereas, Sponge Out of Water is, like, it felt very honest to the spirit of the show. And that's what I really enjoyed about watching it, because it was in a time period where, like, I was really not paying attention to the show at all, except for, like, season 9, like, around when that came out, because of its... and the involvement of Steven Hillenburg. And this is also when I was getting, like, back into, like, watching cartoons on TV, because I had kind of, like, fallen off for a couple years, and, like, I didn't have cable anymore, so it was just kind of hard. And then I discovered, like, beautiful websites like Anime Flavor and Kiss Cartoon,
Jesus Christ,
and things like that. And it was just, that's how I was able to keep up with, like, Harvey Beaks when it was airing. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think, like, the first movie is very much a product of its time, and not, like, in the way people usually say that. Nickelodeon's, like, whole let's make a movie for most of our cartoons initiative they did was, like, very much about, we gotta get, like, the basis of these characters, Like, the Rugrat movie has it very much too. Also, I don't want to talk about the Hey Arnold movie. That movie's not very good. But, like, the Wild Thornberrys movie also. Like, these are movies that very much take what is these shows and simplifies it to make it a plot. And I kind of respect it for that. Like, they were trying to get these things to feel like something for people who watch the show, right? Yeah. But also to be a narrative that a human could follow who has not watched these shows ad nauseum. And I think there's, like, a how can I say this? There's, like, a quality of that missing, I think, whenever we rarely, like, we don't do it anymore, but, like, I feel like the last times we got, like, cartoon movies or stuff like that, like, for shows, it didn't feel like that anymore. I feel like there was a...
Yeah, like, I don't want to say it's like a and the Invaders.
I don't want to say, like, there's like a lack of integrity, but, like, I think it's, like, having this thing feel like just more of the show isn't inherently bad, right? Yeah. but I do think it defeats the purpose of doing a movie.
Sure, that's a good.
And I think and that's always been kind of my problem with some of those cartoon movies. There's stuff in the I'm going to think about the Rugrat movie for a second. There's stuff in the Rugrat movie that is insane and would never happen in a fucking episode of Rugrats.
Yeah.
But it's necessary in the movie to have the dramatic tension of what a movie is.
Yeah,
And I think that's always what made me like those movies is oh yeah, you see the bigger budget and it's animated differently, but also this is a formatting and style of writing you won't see for these characters because it's not a TV show. And I always thought that was the novelty of it to me.
I mean, the second Rugrats movie has, the Chucky's hot stepmom. So that's
all right. I was gonna say a kaiju fight,
sure.
but you went immediately to the milk. Which honestly, I'm not complaining because she is fucking fine as shit. Chucky's dead mom is also sexy. Let's get into it.
We can talk about that
New
next
podcast topic.
Yeah.
Dude, who's hotter, Chucky's stepmom or his hot dead mom?
Yeah.
Let's start the discourse.
But yeah, I do feel like there have been a few recently. Big City Greens had a movie, which I have not watched yet, because I'm still watching through the show. And Craig of the Creek had the Craig Before the Creek, which is a big prequel movie, and they had a cinematic color palette and everything. I think they did a good job making it not just feel like a long episode of,
yeah, I agree. I very much agree with that
show.
movie.
Same thing with the Invader Zim movie. That feels especially because that's focused on Dib, and that feels like a nice format shift.
Yeah.
So it feels properly epic. But anyway, so yeah, we're all done talking about our history with the show. We can kind of just get into the show proper.
Okay, I have one thing on my notes that I wrote down, and I need to talk about it.
Okay.
Because I think we take it for fucking granted. This show is fucking gorgeous. I think we take for granted how good SpongeBob fucking looks in those early seasons.
Yeah.
I was pausing the show and going, these backgrounds go crazy.
Yeah.
I know we all are so familiar with the SpongeBob background of the flower shapes and the gradient and all that stuff. But when you really look at it, I'm this is wild. This looks really fucking good. The painting here is crazy.
Yeah.
Specifically the episode where SpongeBob is stuck in the other neighborhood because he misses his bus. There's so many visuals. I'm wow, this looks super good and moody and cool and
yeah.
I was thinking about man, I think I did myself a disservice watching the show too much as a kid.
Yeah.
Because I felt this way about about Ed and Eddie too, about their title cards, how good they look.
Yeah.
And I found myself feeling that way for this show too, of the background art looks so good, and I love the scenes they build, and I love the way stuff is drawn around characters, and I also think how strong all the character design is.
Yeah.
It's so wild to me.
I was thinking about that because watching it and really trying to dissect it in my brain, just looking at SpongeBob as a character design, he's such a weird design, but it just works. There's just I never questioned it as a kid, and as an adult, no matter how hard I try to question how weird it is, I'm just no, something about this just works. There's just a subtlety to the character design that just kind of makes it come together and click.
I also think it works because he is he's shaped in a way no one else in that show is shaped.
Yeah.
Right.
SpongeBob is the easiest character to pick out in a scene or a shot or a frame with a lot of other characters due to color and shape. There's not a lot of yellow characters in the show, at all. Even yellow tones. Everyone's so cool toned, with the exception of Mr. Krabs, SpongeBob, and Patrick. And it's so easy to pick him out because he is a yellow square. And there's jokes about it, but I'm damn, it's so easy to find SpongeBob in every scene. I never have an issue with it.
That's true. The color palette with a lot of, sky is always blue. The ground is always tan. So he kind of naturally, naturally sticks out. And I was reading a bunch of old interviews where early on in the show, in the development, Hillenburg is explaining, oh, well, he's supposed to be a kitchen sponge. That's why that's the joke about him being an undersea sponge, and character designers being should we round off the edges on SpongeBob and make him fully square, because it's going to be more time consuming to do the squiggly edges. And how, it ended up, every call they made ended up being the right one in retrospect, because that kind of adds to the design's charm and its unconventionality. I think it's interesting to have a character who is almost always like at a 3/4 view, in a way where you always have to, like, if you're drawing SpongeBob, it taught me as a kid like basic perspective, because if you draw SpongeBob, you can draw him like face on, and that's fine, but usually if you're drawing him like at an angle, and you have to draw the side and space it out a little bit so the dimensions look right. And it taught me about like drawing. I can't really draw, but it taught me the basics about drawing in a 3-dimensional space. Just because I was, you have to draw a square to create SpongeBob's body.
Oh yeah, you just shared some. The background just so good, especially like, not to be boomer man here for a second, but like the cell animated episodes, just like the ones that before the digital animation, which still look good, but it's just like, man, how good these like season 1 episodes look. It's just like, it's kind of crazy, like going back to it and seeing how well it all holds up, especially because like I remember as a kid with like this and like some other shows that had like, the season 1 was on cells and then like later it was digital. I was always like, those episodes look old. Like that was like the thought, like the way that I could articulate it. So I don't know. It's just like nice going back and seeing like how well like it's aged visually, and like how the character designs, you take that for granted too, like how well designed each of the characters are and how much they like convey the personality, and just like how good of a conceit it is to be like a bunch of undersea creatures talking amongst themselves. You have characters like Plankton, who is very tiny, like the real phytoplankton.
I am small.
And then you have like Mr. Krabs, and then his daughter Pearl, who's a whale, so she's very big, and Mrs. Puff, who's
sexy.
Yeah, shut up.
Who said that? Who said that? Oh my god.
And then she's a blowfish. And
I know she is.
Yeah. But just like a lot, I know Squidward is. People are like, you're an octopus, not a squid. And
he also has clinical depression. So what else do you want to get into? Like, let's not go
he's
into
not
detail.
a realistic character. Squids can't, or octopi can't play the clarinet. So
yeah. Well, he's not a squid. He's an octopus. Also, he also like is being crushed by the cudgel of capitalism. Let's talk about that instead. Like, let's focus on the real details about this motherfucker. Speaking of character design, before I want to get it, I wanted to like two more things. This show is also fucking textured. I think a lot of cartoons, by the nature of having to pump out animation and cartoons weekly and stuff like that, like big seasons. And this is not me giving a discredit to any other shows. I understand why. SpongeBob, however, is fucking textured. And I think this is lost later on. Like, it's one of the few issues I have with like modern SpongeBob that's not like some weird fucking Mr. Enter making a 19-minute video bitching about it. Like, an actual complaint I have is that we've lost a lot of texture. There's like this like grainy quality to like the grounds and stuff in SpongeBob, like the show in the first season, that made me go, that's sand. I can feel that sand, Like, there's a spongy, gummy quality to looking at Patrick. There's like like the meat feels like it would feel like meat. There's so much texture stuff happening in the first few seasons that makes my brain feel so good visually looking at it. Like, I was like, truly, I'm like, I gotta watch the show. And I kept turning it the fuck off and going, ooh, but also, I just want to look at this screenshot. One of my favorite examples of this is, and I know it's horrifying, is the Halloween episode. I want to touch SpongeBob's brain so bad. Like, there's like a real like, ooh, that like it would feel awful.
Yeah.
He looks terrifying.
Just a nice, like, a weird sensory thing about, like, all that stuff.
Yeah. Like, also, I think when it comes to character design, I do think there is a slight redesign that my partner pointed out to me, which is I didn't notice until they said it that Sandy didn't have a tail at first.
Yeah.
That blew my fucking mind. I'm like, oh my God, Sandy does not have a tail. I want to know why they gave her one. Did she not read as a squirrel enough to people so they needed to get the tail in there? That's like one of those, like, to be in that room. Or did someone just fuck up and draw where it's like, well, we're stuck here now? Like,
I don't know. Like, I think that because, they would have a model that they would go off of. So, like, even if they did mess up one time, it would probably be corrected other times. So I think that they must have changed the model, like, at some point, in order to, whatever. Like you said, like, oh, maybe she just didn't read as a squirrel to people. They just saw her as, like, some kind of vague mammal. I like that, and that's fine. I mean, in a lot of these cartoons, we just talked about Camp Laszlo and how, like, the dung beetles literally don't have any insect-like features at all that determine that they're dung beetles. They're just purple guys. So, like, sometimes they can get a little loosey-goosey with it, but for the most part, maybe they wanted to be a little bit more defined there. I will say, like, on the topic of Patrick, in his texture, he has a very, like, tongue-like texture. Like, it seems like he would feel like a tongue if you touched him.
I want to chew on him so bad. Yeah. I want to, like, fucking pick him up and plop him in my mouth like a candy and chew on him.
I know I had one of the, like, early plushes for Patrick. And I remember the little red dots that are across his entire body were, like, kind of, like, individually sewed on. It almost looked like an error, but I remember just, like, they felt like, it's one of those plushes where it feels soft. It's, like, a little off model. Like, he's a little ugly where they didn't get the eyebrows right. They were, like, very big and thick. But yeah, it was definitely, like, that's a very, it's a character that, contrasts with SpongeBob really well. Yeah. Big and pointy. And I wanted to say, with the backgrounds, I feel like something season 1 does in particular is that there's a little more atmosphere. I feel like I think it's jellyfishing is the episode that has this really, really nice opening shot where it starts off, it's like pans down from the sky as you watch a jellyfish, like, fly down to SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward's house. Could be a different episode. It's like one of the first couple of episodes. And they're really great at setting, reminding you that you're underwater, even if a lot of episodes have nothing to do with the characters technically being underwater. And I think that kind of adds a lot of character to episodes. I think someone mentioned Rock Bottom earlier, which if we want to talk about, go into season 4 a little bit more, that episode reminded me a lot of a season 4 episode for superficial reasons, because a lot of later SpongeBob goes to Freaky Town and encounters gross monsters. Which is, like, a very small part of the episode, because it's like the basis of that one is the relatability of being stranded in a unfamiliar place and trying to catch the next bus. That's, like, the driving force of the episode. And I think
I've gone to like somebody who's gone to the state fair and had to take a bus there, and then sometimes they just drop you off at, like, a weird place, and it's like, whatever, figure this out. Like, I have been there.
Oh, I'll be killed. I'll be killed. Please, Helly, save me. I want to talk about, like, the cast, like, the voice cast, right?
Yeah.
But I think we should talk about the characters first and then go to cast. I think that makes more sense to me.
Sure. So, SpongeBob himself, I feel like out of all of the characters in the cast, SpongeBob maybe is the least divisive as far as like I think people tend to like maybe certain episodes people will be like, I don't like SpongeBob in this episode, but everybody is normally on board with SpongeBob, which is a little bit unusual for like usually protagonist characters are a little bit more bland and less like they're not usually people's favorite characters, but people love SpongeBob, and I think that that's like a very huge mark in favor of the show. Like compare him to Rocco, and I love Rocco, do not get me wrong, but like he's not the funniest character Filbert is. So that's the he's the straight man amongst in like a crazy world, whereas like SpongeBob, like he can be, but he does get in on the shenanigans, and he can be like very clueless and chaotic and all these things, but in a very like well-meaning way that's very charming.
I think they did a good job shaping the world around SpongeBob, like in its inception. Like the way we talked about, like I talked about earlier about the sliding scale of characters that could be straight men, and like SpongeBob being in the middle is not an accident, you know? Like it's perfect. Like that he can be silly, he can be his level of character all the time and still fill in any role. But they did that in a way that they didn't have to make him blank to do that. They made the world match his level, so he could still be very interesting, but still match any role he needed to for an episode. And I think that's really neat. I also think he is, in a show that could be sometimes mean-spirited, I'm going to just say that at the least for SpongeBob as a show, he is rarely, if ever, mean-spirited. And I think that's like a very good thing towards him. Everyone can be a bit of a dick, but SpongeBob is rare to be the dick himself.
And
I think that's like a really nice thing.
Rare cases where he is like very angry. The most famous is the one where he's taking care of Squidward and wants him to get a job, and is being like very passive aggressive towards him, and then also the famous "Listen, you crustaceous cheapskate," that whole rant. It's just very good. Like hearing Tom Kenny, like I'm so used to hearing him scream as like different characters, but it's like a lot more rare hearing him scream as SpongeBob. And like even kind of early on, Patrick sorta is just like the dumb neighbor. He's not really like
I'd say he's evil.
Yeah, I don't know. He's not somebody who is like, oh, he has like the brain of a child or whatever. Like. Early on, like in the episode where he's like helping SpongeBob with the boating test, he's just like he's actually helping him effectively. It isn't, so it's just like I don't know.
I think he falls into like a weird frat boy area early on. Like he's like your frat boy friend who's not dumb, but he's not smart either. But also every episode he's in, he just kind of makes SpongeBob's life worse in the first 3 seasons. Like he's just like a shitty guy. Like he's your frat boy friend who's like, yo, listen, you can have 2 beers and drive. Nothing bad is going to happen. Right. Like, he's that kind of dude. And I think it's like a funnier place for him to be than just straight up really, really dumb. It's for him to be like kind of dumb, but more so unhelpful.
Yeah.
But SpongeBob is too nice to realize it. I think that's like my favorite place for him.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the fucking episode, the Suds episode is so funny because Patrick is just projecting his own fear of doctors on his friend. Like, no, you don't need a doctor. You'll be fine. Yeah. I'm basically a doctor, bro. Like, it's so fucking good.
He's a Christian Scientist.
Yeah.
It's one of those. But, yeah, Patrick, like, I know people grow to hate him later on. You know, the dreaded TV tropes, Flanderization sets in.
Oh, my God.
And I know, I'm sorry for using a TV tropes term. Mea culpa.
I had a friend ask me what Flanderization was, because like, oh, it sounds like something you would know. And I'm like, yes, I do know what Flanderization is.
I think I'd be pissed if someone said, you seem like you would know what Flanderization is. Like, hey,
I'm a big Simpsons fan too, so that's probably why. I was going to say to Patrick, I do really like him early on, like Tea at the Tree Dome, episodes like that, where he is SpongeBob's like kind of older brother, confidant figure who seems like he has it all together, but then ends up getting in just as much trouble. That was like a really bland way to describe his character.
Yeah, but it's right. You are correct. Like,
Yeah.
No, but we get what you mean.
Yeah,
though.
yeah. I do think I was realizing while watching a handful of episodes this time, I think he is kind of not really a victim, because I wouldn't even say it's a negative, especially these first couple seasons. But he kind of there's a shift between season 1 and season 2, and I noticed it immediately where they stop, the humor starts to be prioritized over the characters. Season 1 is a little slower,
Yes.
it's a little quieter. They were pretty careful about SpongeBob would do this, he wouldn't do that. And I know I was thinking there's a season 2 episode with Bossy Boots, the one where Pearl starts like running the Krusty Krab, and Mr. Krabs is like, SpongeBob, you have to fire Pearl. SpongeBob is like contemplating over this. He's like, oh, I don't want to fire Pearl. And then Pearl's like, oh, I want to quit. So he fake fires Pearl, and he's like completely comfortable with that. You get the plot to a place where SpongeBob, that's something SpongeBob would entirely do. And you know, that's a season 2 example. But I start to, there starts to be faster paced humor. And there's a lot more like angry mob stuff with the Bikini Bottomites. And I think that Patrick starts leaning towards, well, it's funny if he does this because of the joke rather than just because of, like a kind of more of like a joke machine character. And it works. It's funny. But pretty quickly you start getting episodes like, I love Secret Box because it comes from like a really childish place, and I think SpongeBob and Patrick, neither of them is really innocent in that situation. But Patrick is like kind of a jerk in that one.
You're mentioning this in like season 1. There's a lot more just time for a scene to be set and for like the music and everything, which we'll talk about for sure, like the soundscape of the show. Whereas like later on, especially like once you get into that like critical mass in season 3, there's very little dead air. It's just kind of like constantly jokes, especially in an episode like Wet Painters. It's just rapid fire humor. And it's very funny, do not get me wrong, but it like it's funny going back to the old seasons, and there is almost like a quaint charm to it. That's why I didn't expect, like I still expected to enjoy it, but I didn't expect to still like laugh a lot at like the first season episodes, because I was sort of expecting them to be maybe a little bit more dull. But it's just like a difference in style, and I think like the style evolved into in season 2 and then especially in season 3, and I think the trajectory that it goes on is like it's a natural trajectory. It's just that some people, it just becomes overwhelming at a certain point for a lot of people.
It can lose you.
Yeah,
like I think it's one, like we've talked about like shows finding themselves in season 2 and 3 before a lot. And I think this show found itself, and I think it's like inherently like it's neutral. It's a neutral thing. If a show finds itself, it is no longer for you.
Yeah,
I think it's like a neutral thing. It's not good nor bad. It's just like the truth of how things happen. And I think SpongeBob definitely does that quickly. Like if you like the style of season 1 and a slower pace of it, and like you don't like it's just like these characters are going to exist to be joke machines, which like I don't think is inherently wrong when you're making a comedy show, especially a comedy show like SpongeBob that has such a silly premise,
Yeah.
But like I think there is a across the board when it comes to like nostalgia, why I hate nostalgia is that people can't really make peace with the fact that sometimes things you like evolve into themselves, and what they evolve into you won't be for you.
Yes. Yeah. No. I mean, I
think it's beautiful when shows, even shows I like that like evolves in that's like not for me anymore. I'm like, damn, okay, well, I'm just gonna stop watching it. You guys have fun. Like, great example of this is I watched, and the show's bad now. I don't care about that. Let's pretend it's not bad for the point of it. I watched the first season of Stranger Things. Loved it.
Yeah.
And when they said they were going to do another season with the same characters like this, I don't really need that.
Yeah.
I'm good.
That's how I felt too.
And I
was like, I felt like the first season was such a complete story that I was watching season 2 and it just felt like I was like, this is good, but why do we need to open this up again? And then it just like kept going, and I was like, all right, I'm not really interested in this anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah, because I thought it was gonna be an anthology, but it wasn't. But I was like,
Yeah,
that's
that
not
would've been
inherently
better.
bad. I'm not saying season 2 is bad or whatever is happening. It's just not what I wanted from the show anymore. And you can stop watching it. And I think a lot of online nerd culture is being unable to accept when a show stops being what you want it to be.
Yeah, or
And SpongeBob's
a
a
game
perfect
series, Pokemon.
Yeah, SpongeBob's a perfect example of that because I know there's a lot of talk about how, oh, well, after the movie, they started writing the show more for kids and the vision changed. And no, it's just they got different people mostly running that show. It became
it changed.
it became something different. And I just kind of think that there's like I love to meet the guy who vibes the most with like season 7 SpongeBob because like that has to be out there. I'm not really sure who it is, who some of those episodes are for besides the people who made them. But there is like a very different pace and type of humor, more awkward and gross out based. We're like, yeah, there's totally like a lot of appeal there. And I feel like people were like, well, there's so much generalizing when it comes to SpongeBob. People will say that a decade of the show is bad when they've probably seen 2 episodes produced years and years apart.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing with like Simpsons. And, you know, when a show's on for years and years, it's fair. But I do think that, you know, breaking it down, especially what I was realizing is like a lot of issues people take with SpongeBob start pretty early.
I would say so, and I do want to talk about Squidward, you know, as we're talking about the different characters, because he's somebody who people like really kind of rally behind. I would say, like, some people are like, "Oh, he's a jerk," whatever, but a lot of people are like, "This poor man is being harassed by SpongeBob and Patrick. Another Squidward torture porn episode, etc., etc." You know, like, I'm not gonna. It was kind of old references, but there are people on YouTube that have made like videos talking about that. But like, yeah, I would say that kind of begins in season 1. Like in season 1, there are many episodes where it's just like very early on. You know, there's the one with the jellyfishing where Squidward is like in a full body cast and they're just like torturing him. And it's just like, you know, so it's like, oh, do you find that funny? There's the real estate episode with the lady coming by and it's opposite day, so SpongeBob and Patrick are pretending that they're Squidward, and like that's very funny. But do you vibe with putting Squidward through that misery? Now he is able to like enact some comeuppance on them, so it's not completely one-sided. You know, he's just in misery, but you know that's like an established part of the show. And same thing with like, oh, Patrick being kind of a dumb guy. Like, yes, he has more of a depth to him early on, but it's not that deep into season 1 that they start to shift him into just like purely kind of like a dumb, chaotic figure. And yeah, I feel like once you get into, there's like, once you get into season 3, which is sort of like at least for me, like it's the most beloved season. There's just so many good episodes in season 3. It just has like such a density of really good episodes. Not to say that there aren't ones in season 1 and 2. Hold on. There we go. But like season 3, like again, it just kind of becomes, there's so much rapid fire humor. There's so much like stupid humor, just like insane premises, world breaking ones. You know, there's a lot of, I feel like a lot of that, you know, even though it started in like season 2, like a lot of the Green Blatty, Aaron Springer episodes are in season 3, the Dan Povenmire ones, you know, one of the campfire song, you know, I remember having one of the like Burger King toys, I believe it was, that like recorded a couple seconds of audio, like the SpongeBob toy, and and I recorded It was either like a pre-recorded thing on the toy, or I recorded it off the TV, the like end of the Campfire song. So yeah, and also like that's worth noting that, you know, not just people who would go on and work on other shows at Nickelodeon, but people that would go and work on shows on Cartoon Network, people that would go and work on shows at Disney, like all working on SpongeBob. It's kind of like a very important television show as far as like the, you know, the spreading of influence across like all these networks, and like for the purposes of our show, like what we're talking about in terms of like talking about these shows and then talking about like their influence going forward, and like, oh, this guy worked on this show and blah blah blah. So
yeah, like it's like it very much has a tapestry to it.
Yeah,
that like it's not. I love that's like my favorite part of the show is like thinking about the tapestry and how other people go from other things.
Yeah,
and
but yeah, just to bring it back, what do you like Squidward? How do you feel about how he's handled?
I think Squidward is the character of television.
Yeah,
I like I think like SpongeBob. There's SpongeBob-esque characters that exist.
Mm-hmm.
I think in other cartoons because like SpongeBob is so influential, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think whenever someone tries to make a Squidward, they accidentally make a Plankton.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Squidward has such a specific. I think what makes Squidward work so well is that SpongeBob does like him.
Yes.
I think if SpongeBob didn't like Squidward, it would not work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And if Squidward every 3 episodes didn't have a moment of sympathy, like, hey, leave the sponge alone, it would also not work for me. Some of my favorite Squidward moments is when he uses his rage at the capitalist system to attack someone who hurt SpongeBob's feelings.
Yeah.
It is my favorite thing that happens. I'm like...
I like that, like, early on in season 1, it feels like there is like a little bit more of an intention to be like, these people, like, they drive each other crazy, but they also do have to end up, you have to understand why they're friends by the end to some degree. I feel like that happens a lot more like early on, and then it's kind of dropped. On your topic of other characters embodying the Squidward role, I would say for Water Over Yonder, Hater is more Plankton. Peepers is very Squidward. Just because he's like the beleaguered secondary guy to like this other guy in charge. So like,
yeah, like I think your Squidward that you're trying to make can't ever be truly antagonistic.
Yeah.
Even when Squidward is being antagonistic to SpongeBob, he's playing the game, you know?
Right.
In a way that a villain wouldn't. Like, oh, haha, they're sending bubble messages. Squidward is like sending fake ones that are mean. Yeah, he's still playing along with them. Like, SpongeBob finds out about it, and he's going to have a great time. Like, oh, Squidward's playing with me. Like, that's the key there, you know? Like,
Right.
Also, I think Squidward is important because he started a long path of having young girls, me included, insane about the black cat golden retriever ship couple.
Yeah,
that is SpongeBob.
that's true.
I'm fucking kidding. I'm not kidding. That's the truth.
And
of
so
it.
that is
Like,
a very good
it's-
pairing. So. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that's something the more recent episodes. There's a few that have 100% leaned into SpongeBob and Squidward shipping. I'm not even joking about this.
That is really good because, like, I remember early on in a lot of like unofficial stuff and things like that, they were like really setting up like, oh, SpongeBob has a crush on Sandy. You know, like it's like, oh, she is the love interest character, like 100%, not just like the female friend or anything like that. It's like that was kind of a thing early on, and then I feel like they really dropped that because it feels like, I don't know, not necessarily saying they're like, we've seen the error of our ways and Yowie is the future. Like, that is not what they thought. They just were like, oh, it's better if, you know.
How did they
like,
know?
Yeah. Better if it
the writing's
fits this
on
way.
the wall. That's why.
But yeah, and I would say, like, as a kid, Mr. Krabs was probably my favorite character, and I'm gonna say something, and everybody, you're just gonna have to take my word for me that I'm Jewish and my mother is Jewish, but he reminded me of my mom because she's very frugal, we'll say.
Oh God.
So, and she also, you know, would make those same jokes, and anytime I tell her how much money I've saved. She's like, you're glad that your mother. I mean, actually, I will not repeat what she said. But
No, I also think Mr. Krabs, like, we're not going to talk about sound yet. We'll talk about sound design later, right? Mm-hmm. But Mr. Krabs is up there with like Cell's feet from Dragon Ball, with the most satisfying
Like
walking sounds I will ever hear in my life. Just like I could close my eyes and hear that little in my head. And I'm
sounds, just like all this, like I said, the soundscape in general, not just the music, but like the sound effects, so good in this show. It's like Ed and Eddie levels of like. Just like you can remember every single sound, and they all are iconic, like SpongeBob stepping and Squidward and Mr. Krabs. Everybody's like stepping, their footfalls are so iconic. The music, of course, is like legendary. I don't know how much of it was like actually composed for the show. I know a lot of it was like needle drop music, but I'm sure some of it was like specially composed for the show, and it all has that like very like what's the name of that instrument that is used?
A steel guitar.
The like it just has that like it has that Caribbean or Hawaiian sort of music.
The pedal steel guitar. Mm. Yeah, that's the instrument Double D hates knowing how to play.
Yeah,
fucking still a great joke for that show. But I don't think we guys spend as much time on Sandy and Plankton. We should talk about Plankton though.
Oh yeah, we could.
We talked. I think we actually gave Sandy a little bit of talk earlier about like her role in the show. Mm. Sandy is very funny, and I think some of my favorite bits might be Sandy bits. When she lassoed Patrick back and there was an atomic bomb explosion, I had to pause the episode because I was laughing so fucking hard. Something about just like an explosion killed me.
She definitely becomes, like, as the show goes on, like a really good, really entertaining character. Even, like, she's a little bland at first, but then slowly like matches everybody in her own way. And there are still like a lot of great quotes with her. And of course, like her and SpongeBob, they just have like a really funny dynamic. I don't know why this is like one of those quotes that's almost not even like a joke, but it's just something that makes me laugh whenever I think about it. Is that SpongeBob? That's a paperclip and a piece of string. When he pulls it out to be like, "Oh, I have your tail," which that's talking about the fact that like. Yeah, she gets a tail and then gets it taken away by the the Alaskan.
Oh yeah, no, that leads into one of my favorite jokes that I have also been thinking about a lot, which is that the paperclip and the piece of string can be S for SpongeBob, and he flips it up, or S for Sandy, which doesn't make any sense.
But it's so fucking fun. Like, whenever SpongeBob has those little tiny, like, dumb, whimsical moments, is when he's at his fun. Like, there's like, be assertive, SpongeBob. Boop. Not inserted. Like, literally, some of my favorite SpongeBob jokes is him just being, like, a little guy. And that's, like, a perfect example of it. And I think it's because it allows him to, like, do it with his friends. Yeah. The Alaskan Bullworm episode is truly when I went like, oh, Sandy's peak. Yeah. Because it's like her for the first time being the really silly one. Yeah. Because she's so American. She's like, I can handle anybody. Yeah. Sandy, no, that's not the worm. What? That's not the worm, Sandy. That's his tongue. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. That tone of voice when she's defeated is so good.
And this is the whole worm.
Yeah. That's one where I started to notice something they start doing in season 2 a lot is realizing that the characters can just kind of carry a lot of an episode, like multiple scenes where it's just SpongeBob and Sandy in an open field. They are walking forward. That is the only thing that is action-wise going on in the episode. And just kind of hinging on, like, Secret Box I mentioned before. That's another one. Yeah. Where it's just it's pure character interaction driving the plot. I mean, obviously the Alaskan Bullworm stuff happens up front, but I was also going to say to Sandy, I think Texas might be after Karate Choppers, but those feel like episodes. I wouldn't say that Sandy feels like one of the rare characters where she is kind of figured out,
but not in a way where she seems out of character in any episode before, which I think is something I really give the credit to the show, where the way it evolves is supernatural. Very natural, not supernatural, in the way, in the way where if there is, the evolutions feel very, you can go from season 1 to season 2, and it feels like I remember one episode that caught my interest this time. And I'm sorry for straying from the character stuff, but I want to talk about this. Is the Squid's Day Off episode, where Squidward tries to take a day off when he becomes the boss and then drives himself crazy. And about how that's an episode that if it happened like really early in season 1, it wouldn't work as well. Because by that point, SpongeBob is kind of like established to be this chaotic force that can just like appear behind Squidward when he's turned around, or like he'll open the door and he's right there. So Squidward's fear that SpongeBob is hiding in his bathtub or will burn the Krusty Krab by like breathing is rational. Like you kind of understand where he's coming from in a weird way. And I think that also I think there's other episodes where the characters freak out. But that's a key one where big psychological freakouts where the characters get stuck in their own heads, and that's like a big. There ends up being like whole episodes, like the one with Mrs. Puff in jail, where that's like the entire conceit of the episode.
I love that episode.
Oh yeah, that one's great. I forgot how many like side character episodes there are early on.
Yeah. They have no issue like letting their side characters like really breathe and do stuff. And I think that's like such a good thing to have for a cartoon. I think a cartoon that feels as though it doesn't need the like my main character has me for all the time is a show that will last, you know? Where like you can always think about it and think about like where these characters are going. I do want to say like to like go back to the characters, we do have to talk about Plankton.
Yes, of course we have.
So Plankton is how I'm going to get into like the voice cast.
Yeah.
Because you can't mention Plankton without mention Doug Lawrence being the funniest man to ever live. Whenever the fucking band episode where he goes, Squidward goes, so people talk loudly when they want to seem smart, and just play the going, correct. Funniest, like I don't know why I was in tears. Plankton so often just has a performance where he says something that's 2 to 3 words, and it's so funny I lose my mind.
Yeah.
The fucking I must admit, I am small. Like I'm just
the quote that I led into with the the episode, just like that's been lodged in my head since I was a kid because it's just so funny, him coming into a group of like guys in a bar and just saying a bunch of big words that confuse them and they beat him up. It's just like and like the hard cut from him saying "Who will join me" to him like beating up and in a wheelchair and being like, "I don't get it."
Also, the fun song is like good. But the way Plankton goes, uranium, bombs, the way the pause and then bombs had me crying.
Yeah.
Just everything, like, he's so funny.
We talked about him in Camp Laszlo and how good, like, how much he makes Edward, like, just such a funny character, like, just by his own voice. We also talked about another person who is a big voice actor on SpongeBob before in the Justice League stuff, Clancy Brown as
Mr.
Mr. Krabs. It's so good, like that he can be like cold-blooded CEO, freaking Lex Luthor,
beef it with a gorilla.
Yeah,
Lex Luthor.
and then he can also be Mr. Krabs.
Just like this fucking cartoonish pirate voice. Arr, yes, I love money.
Yes.
Like just he can do it. It's so good. It's so fun. Literally everyone in this voice cast was born to voice these characters.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't change a fucking thing. Tom Kenny, we talked about Comedy SpongeBob, fantastic.
Yeah.
This is like Tom Kenny earning his place in the world of voice actors.
Yeah,
Truly and honestly.
Because like he started off in Rocco, and then this feels like they were like, oh, he's so funny as Heifer, and like a bunch of other like incidental characters. Let's escalate him to main character status for this show, and then it's just like this is when he really takes off. You know, around the same time, like he was doing some other roles here and there, but I feel like he became the guy to get for your cartoon in, you know, when SpongeBob really took off. Because before that, you know, it was like maybe doing the narrator in Powerpuff Girls, or doing a character in a bunch of characters in Mission Hill. You know, it wasn't until SpongeBob that he's the cartoon voice guy. You know, you just hear him in everything, and he's just like so many voices and a lot of things. He can do so many voices. It's just like incredible.
So many racial voices.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say to that end, Tom Kenny, this is his first lead role. Like he is the main character, and I don't know how much you guys the sketch comedy, the '90s sketch comedy show, Mr. Show, with Bob Odenkirk and David Cross. I kind of consider he leaves. He did 3 seasons of that, and then leaves partially because of SpongeBob. He's not in the final 4th season of that. But yeah, there's a lot of I always associate 90s Tom Kenny with that, because if you watch it, he'll be the newscaster, and there's the narrator voice. There's an episode where they do a HR Puff and Stuff parody, and he's just dressed as a wizard and doing the Ice King voice. Like there's a lot of primal Tom Kenny voices, and a lot of you can't do that today, Tom Kenny voice.
Well, and the thing is, though, he will do them today. But like, so across the board, and I can talk about this. There's another actor on the show who is known for something else in the '90s for me, but is Patrick. Bill, like his voice, he is. Do you guys know the HBO show Oz?
That's right. Yeah, I'm aware.
The show about like, you know, prison and abuse and all that stuff, right? He plays a neo-Nazi correctional officer. And so I'm like a huge Oz super fan. Like I got a book, like my friend Cody got me a book of the show for my birthday one year. Like I'm that big of a fan of Oz. And every time I get to the season he's in and I hear Patrick's voice saying the racial slurs about black people, it like fucking gyrates my brain. I'm like, oh my god. But he's such a good actor. He's also fucking huge. Like he is the most like, this is like he can play a giant scary racist because he's fucking ginormous and scary looking. But then he's like the nicest guy you have ever meet when he's like in this show and like at panels and stuff about SpongeBob. Not even just mention also Clancy Brown. Like there's so many actors who were just doing things in the 90s, like that are in this show, and it's so sick that they're voicing here. Like imagine watching Highlander and then watching fucking SpongeBob and going, wait a minute.
And
like
Roger Bumpus, who is Squidward, is in like so many garbage shows from like the like and so many like random and not 80s and like 90s trash, like raw tunage and whatever, like just like going through the list right now, just like terrible. He just is a working voice actor. Tom Kenny also is just like a working professional. It's just like so much stuff that he's done, and yet like for a lot of people, I would say Squidward is kind of his like defining role, whereas like Tom Kenny, it's, you know, SpongeBob for sure, but there's a lot of characters that people would attribute to that, and same thing with Clancy Brown. But like,
Roger with Tom Bumpus Kenny, obviously I'm going Jake Spider Monkey any day of the week.
Right? Yeah.
Have I ever talked to you? I feel like, Wyatt, have I ever talked to you about how Jake Spider Monkey is like the bass Tom Kenny voice for me? Like you can track every Tom Kenny voice because it just sounds the most like his regular voice but slightly pitched up.
Oh, well, we watch My Gym Partner's Monkey's Gonna Suck Ass for me now. Like, well, this is him. God, I fucking hate that y'all don't want to watch it.
I'm excited to rewatch it because I enjoyed it. Didn't love it, but I did like it when I last watched it, when I watched it alongside Camp Lazlo. And it's just funny that over time I've been like, man, I think I really love Camp Lazlo, you know? And then also, man, that My Jupiter's Monkey was not very good. Like, it's any time I take any amount of distance from that show, I'm like, this isn't good. Like, this is not very good. It's just, like, annoying and frustrating. But there are still the lights of joy in that show. So I'm excited to get to it and talk about it. Because we've said it. This is the motto of Cartoon Buffoons, is that mids can be loud. You know, it's something that
mids
we
can
talked
be so
about
loud.
with the episode we did with Tariq on Mike Lewinog. And that's a good show.
Back to SpongeBob.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, I
You
think
guys were
the
talking about
reason why
Cartoon
it was-
Network shows on your Cartoon Network
I know.
podcast.
What the
How
hell?
dare you?
But like to the voice cast, I think the reason why these voice actors work and why like so many of them being working like actors and voice actors both for the 90s makes it work so well is that there's this underlying thing about SpongeBob. I don't know if anyone's picked up on that the show is almost a like love letter to an era of comedy and animation that no one thinks about SpongeBob being a love letter to. Like there's so much Looney Tunes in in SpongeBob. There's like the way they do like zoom in shots of like these really big painted faces of the characters. Like the fact like hell the like Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy like the characters themselves and also their voice actors is a love letter to like a very specific era of like acting in Hollywood, you know? Like the show is like in a way that I never picked up as a kid, so deeply embedded in all of that
Like
stuff.
cartoon history. Because even, I would say, even like 60s Hanna-Barbera stuff, in like superhero things, like Batman and stuff like that with the Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy.
Yeah, it's very Super Friends.
Yep.
The
and, like,
narrator, the realistic fish head announcer, he is the meanwhile at the Super Friends announcer. Like that's what the voice is based on.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
And like it's funny because go ahead, White. You go.
Well, yeah, I was just saying that the tone and everything, like especially in season 1, it feels very like Yogi Bear or whatever. Just like it has that sort of like sitcom-y chill, but just without laugh tracks, basically. Like it just that's kind of the big difference.
Also, like a lot of very like 60s and almost 50s vibes, and like maybe not so much the comedy writing, but the set design of it. Like so, like we talked about how beautiful the sets are, right? These could also be painted sets for a show from the 50s.
Yeah.
That you drop behind somebody, you know? Like, there's this quality to it that is funny, because going from Cartoon Network shows to this, Cartoon Network shows, even the ones that are from the 90s, aren't trying to, like, be homages to Nicktoons and stuff usually.
Yeah.
Even though it's that's the fucking channel. Like, that's the connection there, you know? Like, you guys showed this old stuff, but it's rarely what it's going for. So it's funny to see, like, SpongeBob be the show that's going for that vibe. Like there's a lot of Three Stooges also in SpongeBob.
Oh yeah, there's so much comedy history baked into SpongeBob.
Yeah.
In a lot of interviews with Hillenberg, he'll always mention Jerry Lewis, Pee Wee Herman, Laurel and Hardy as like the basic comedic inspirations. Which I think to that end, looking into like the history, like the SpongeBob Pitch Bible is one of incredibly inspirational. I think to anyone who wants to create their own creative projects, because you can kind of see the primordial ooze that the show came from and how everything is super fully formed. And I think having that relationship to kind of comedy and comedy history is like a secret part of the show's appeal. That
I agree.
Yeah, and I think the sitcominess, not in so much so as like probably not like the way the show looks. There's other like definitely like a love of the ocean that informs it too. But just like how there's three locations, there's only a set number of characters. If you really wanted to, I mean, look, man, I don't really like Camp Coral that much. I probably like it more than most people.
Yeah.
But I understand the sitcom why that SpongeBob would be a good show to be in CGI. From a basic perspective, in theory, not in practice, pretty much. I think as soon as you try to show the underwater desert look of the backgrounds, where there's like infinite space going on forever and there's like nothing in most of the sunny day backgrounds, it doesn't really look good. It never really looked great in the video games either.
Because there's a craft that you need to like design these sets that also lends itself to like that feel of old stuff, like that'd been on TV. Because like everything used to be crafted in a way that like we still do to today. Like if you watch a good movie or a good show, there's still a level of craftsmanship, but like there is a set like quality to SpongeBob that I think is probably hard as shit to do in a cartoon.
Oh yeah,
I mean, even just the interior design is like so good. Like talked about it briefly, but in Wet Painters, being inside Mr. Krabs' house, like it's such a well designed background and interior set. And there's just so many of them like that are just, I mean, SpongeBob's house, that feels so iconic. The Krusty Krab, like all these places, like even on the interior set design level are just so good.
It really shows the like Pee Wee Herman-ness of it, because like I can imagine a live action Pee Wee Herman style set of Mr. Krabs' house, SpongeBob's house, all that stuff. I can see it, and I would know what would go into making it. Like there's a propness to it that like is like you would think is a bad thing to say about a show usually, but because we're talking about a cartoon, it's actually really cool and good that like that exists there.
It feels tactile.
It feels very like it goes deeper back into texture, Like I feel like I can be in these places, and it's so interesting. Like cartoons are at their best when they're crafted by someone who loves something, right?
Yeah.
They love something and they want to express that love in a cartoon. And I think SpongeBob is one of the greatest examples of that, of a love for marine biology and also a love for kind of corny comedies from the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yeah.
And I think it like perfectly comes together to make something that feels timeless. Like even if you're tired of SpongeBob now, there's a reason why it's still on.
Yeah.
There's a reason why it could keep going, is because there's a timeless quality to it that you would find in a lot of those older shows that have aged fairly well.
Yeah, and to kind of bring it back a bit to the main topic of our podcast, which is Cartoon Network, we just talked about Robot Boy, which is a big piece of shit. And we talked about
guys. There's a hot mom in that show too.
She's not hot. She's artificially hot. Don't bring that shit here. We're real milf loves over here.
But we also talked about My Life as a Teenage Robot and how much more honest it felt in its being inspired by like classic Disney and anime and Astro Boy and stuff like that. And like even old Cartoon Network stuff like Dexter's Lab. Like it feels like the people making it we're just like, we want to make a cartoon that we would love to watch. And it just has all of our little interests and things in there. Powerpuff Girls, that feels that way as well with Crack McCracken. And this, like, this just feels like perfectly succinct with what Steven Hillenburg wanted and like their sense of humor, maybe a lot of the crew's sense of humor. I know, like, Steven Hillenburg worked on Rocko's Modern Life beforehand. I believe he was the showrunner for like the last season because of some tragedy that happened in Joe Murray's life, so he couldn't be present for that. And I think that, like, it gave him sort of the experience of being in charge of a show. It gave him sort of the experience of being like part of that crew, and then being able to like inject all those ideas. Whereas, like, we go and look at a lot of the crappy pilots that we watch for the pilot episodes that we do, and so many of them are just, like, derivative in, like, like, we're trying to copy a modern cartoon. Like, they're usually trying to copy Ren and Stimpy. And failing because it's, like, this isn't 1992 anymore. we must move on. But it's not saying I don't like Ren and Stimpy. It's just
No, I get it.
No, it's
Yeah.
I think it's the shallow understanding of Ren and Stimpy. Like I think that's the thing here. SpongeBob's going for a lot of this stuff, and it feels like a love letter, right? Sometimes, but it's not a shallow understanding of those things.
I might have said this in the show, but I definitely said this to my friend when I was talking about how annoying some of these pilots are. But you need to be a psychotic pedophile like John Crickfalusi to make it as good as it is. Like you need, like that's
Jesus,
the magic.
I think you could have stopped at psychotic, but okay.
No, but like you're right. You know, you can't have this like. There's like this very baseline. I understand this show thing of like, no, you don't understand it. Like Robot Boy's like, oh, I understand Astro Boy. It's about a robot boy, you know?
Yeah.
Here it is. Here's my show. And I'm like, no, you fucking dense motherfucker. You don't get it. Like the reason why My Life Teacher's Robot works is they understand that like, hey, Astro Boy looks like this because of Mickey Mouse. They understand that. You gotta like really know the depths of it. Because if you go into a show trying to make something that reminds me of something you like, you'll just make a shitty knockoff. This goes into why a lot of Battle Shonen fucking suck also.
Yeah,
Because they saw Dragon Ball and they didn't think any deeper about what makes Dragon Ball good.
Yeah, they like, weren't like, oh, what did Toriyama, what was he inspired by? You know, like, oh, did he wasn't just Toriyama wasn't just inspired by like, oh yeah, these action kung fu things. He was like, oh, the Peanuts was a big part of it, and like Disney movies, you know, and like
and mythology,
yeah,
like
there's a Cinderella reference in the fucking one of the main villains of Dragon Ball with Bibbidi, and then Bobbidi, and then Boo.
And Boo, yeah. I think that like they don't see the full picture, and like I feel like a shithead saying this to people. I feel like I'm talking down to people, and I'm not. But like you gotta see the full picture of what you are inspired by, because you can't make a show that's inspired by one thing. That's a great way to make something that feels shallow and not very good. You have to come into this with other people you are working with and have everybody bring to the table of what do we like in something?
Yeah.
What is like, make a show that you want to watch first and not a show that's just an homage to something else. No one buys albums for cover bands.
So that being said, SpongeBob itself has become a touch point for a lot of creators going forward. A lot of people want to get on that SpongeBob bag. And a lot of people not just other people copying the homework of their competitors or, you know, like other successful things now, but there are people that have now grown up, like our age, they're in charge of shows. They want to inject like that SpongeBob energy into a show. I think like that is a bit different because that is just one of many influences into like a show. Like they'll like shows that are just trying to be a 1-to-1 copy of SpongeBob or whatever, like Coconut Fred or fucking, you know, whatever, Fish Hooks, whatever, like mid thing. You
Hop
know?
off Fish Hooks.
No,
I think just because they're underwater, I don't think that's a great example.
I know.
Yeah.
I just want to bring up Fish
Hop off Fish Hooks.
Look, I've never even watched Fish Hooks. But there's some unfortunate things that have happened to multiple cast members in that show.
You know what, Nick? Inherently, I'm now indoctrinating you into a Fish Hooks fan without ever seeing it.
I think I've watched half an episode just because I was like,
that's enough.
I was hanging out with a
more
friend,
than 80% of the population.
and he was like, "Oh, you should watch Fish Hooks. It's really good." And I like half paid attention. And he wanted to watch Phineas and Ferb instead. We probably should have watched that. And
that friend has better taste. Okay. Also, you saying that has reminded me that, man, it sure is like there are two people on that show who have some bad stuff going on, who are main characters. Wow. Okay, actually, Wyatt, hop back onto Fish Hooks.
Okay, yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Wyatt. Go ahead about like SpongeBob.
Well, I was just saying that like now, like a lot of shows now, you know, that like you have like if shows from like 10 years ago, there was some like Simpsons influence into it because that's what people grew up with, like Steven Universe, for example.
Yeah, that and Gravity Falls especially has a lot of Simpsons influence.
Then like now I feel like we're really getting into like people having a lot of like SpongeBob influence into like SpongeBob jokes and things like that. Like I feel like there's a good amount of SpongeBob in even something like Big City Greens, which, like I said, I've been watching, and I don't know. Like I think that is like a distinct thing from just like copying the homework. Because I think that they're using it as like part of the flavor stew rather than just like brazenly copying it. Even like the other examples I gave, like I wouldn't consider Coconut Fred's Fruit Salad Island, even though people call it a SpongeBob ripoff. Like that has its own thing going on. It's bad, don't get me wrong, but like it's just like I think it's just like it's copying SpongeBob in the same way that like any show where it's a sitcom with a bunch of weird characters is copying SpongeBob. You know, like Billy and Mandy to an extent is very similar to SpongeBob, and like Chowder later on. I would say with that though, that like as much as I love those two shows and think that they're very funny, SpongeBob, at least in those like pre-movie years, and I'm not even saying like, oh, it gets bad after the movie. I just only watched the pre-movie stuff for this podcast, but like it feels honed in on those things, like the sitcom-y stuff, like the fascination with the undersea and like jokes about that kind of stuff, and just trying to like build a world around that and those characters. Whereas I feel like as the show goes on, something like Billy and Mandy gets a lot less concerned with its themes, with the like dark and macabre and, you know, underworld and demons and things like that. Like it kind of is present towards the end, but it definitely becomes a lot more about just like stupid humor. Same thing with Chowder, becomes a lot less about like cooking and being an apprentice and things like that, and more just like, what are these stupid characters getting up to, and, you know, what mean-spirited thing can happen, you know, how many more jokes can we make about Gazpacho living with his mom, et cetera, et cetera. Like season 3, I feel like they definitely like cross a line into like, all right, well, this does need to end soon, actually. But we'll get to that when we get to the Chowder episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like we're kind of wrapping up at this point, talking.
I guess
about it.
before we fully finish up, I am curious. Because SpongeBob is such an influential show, does anyone have a favorite underrated bit? Like a bit that like you very rarely see like as a meme online or anything. Nick, I guess I'll let you go first, Nick. Is there anyone that pops into your head of like this is a SpongeBob bit from like maybe the early show or even stuff we haven't covered that like you go, man, that's really funny. I wish it got a little bit more attention.
Well, first I wanted to say to the end of Big City Greens having the SpongeBob influence, I would say tracking it back to the C.H. Greenblatt stuff. I think it's because the creators of that show were writers on Harvey Beaks, and that's probably where a lot of the Greenblatty stuff comes from on that show. And I will be honest, because of there not being a lot of 11-minute comedy cartoons for children, there isn't a lot of SpongeBob influence currently right now.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. I think Adventure Time was
it's more
big...
so just people that are fans.
Yes.
It that are working, but they're
100%.
not necessarily. But there's not like a lot of shows that are really seizing that.
Yeah.
Like even like that's the thing. Like I thought like this is gonna get into a whole fucking other topic. Thank you for bringing this up, but you know we'll try to make it quick. But I thought when I was watching YouTube videos in like 2015 and doing all this stuff that I would be like, oh, by this time there would be so many shows that were inspired by stuff like Adventure Time or Steven Universe or big like shows like that. And then now it's like, yeah, you get like a couple kind of like Gravity Falls inspired things with like Amphibia and Owl House.
Stugo is very Adventure Time because there's a lot of just because there's a lot of crew crossover, I think, in the storytelling of that show. And it has
the same ending style of Adventure Time that I kind of love, where it's just sort of like whatever, don't need a moral, just
and it cut to credits,
stops.
Yeah.
But continue. What were you saying?
Yeah. There's not a lot of shows. I think there's a lot of crew overlap. Like a lot of SpongeBob people ended up on Adventure Time. Nick Jennings, Ken Osborne,
Bunch of season 1 hires for Adventure Time. Some stayed on, some didn't. I think that's important. And there's a lot of SpongeBob people doing important things in the industry. It is very strange to me that Eric Weiss, who went on to do The Mighty Bee, love that show. He also ran Sonic Prime, was one of the showrunners of that, which I'm like,
That's
not a good show.
yeah, I mean, good for you.
That's a very different show.
Good for you,
Like,
dude.
Let's build our resume, but I don't know. Okay.
It was probably well crafted in terms of, like, I'm sure he ran a tight ship over there. But yeah, it is interesting. It's interesting to see. I don't know. It's weird now because there's not a lot of people who worked on SpongeBob. A lot of them have ended up back on SpongeBob. There's going to be another theatrical movie coming later this year, and Derek Drymon, who was Hillenberg's kind of like I think it's like creative director. He was like his number 2 guy on the first couple of seasons. He's going to be directing that movie coming out in December. And there's a bunch of other old classic SpongeBob people, and a bunch of people that just never left or stopped working on the show after the classic years, and now they're back writing episodes or boarding episodes. And I think that is a little disappointing where SpongeBob, I think there are reasons. It was kind of like a lightning at the fire, what am I saying? Lightning in the bottle. Like the right place, the right time. Like it was given the amount of promotion it needed to become this huge cultural phenomenon. And I love that the people are still employed. But it would be nice if there were things that that were on Nickelodeon that could last for more than 1 or 2 years. If they weren't being compared to SpongeBob and didn't need to be instant successes like SpongeBob or Loud House.
I do think me and White are probably going to talk about that with the other shows in this miniseries, because me and White for a long time had the running joke of, hey, this show's pretty good, but it's doing SpongeBob good? Nickelodeon will kill it. Yeah, Nickelodeon will fucking kill it. So that's definitely going to come up, especially when we talk about Harvey Beaks. Is it going to come to fuck up?
Right.
Yeah.
But I wanted to actually answer the question of underrated classic SpongeBob bit. So one episode that rewatching that I realized, this is a classic. There's so many bits from this that I think about without even really thinking about them, is My Pretty Seahorse, like the early season 3 one, where SpongeBob adopts just Mystery the seahorse who eats everything.
You big stupid animal.
Yes, that's probably I say that way too much. I say, get out of here, you big stupid animal. Can't you see I don't love you anymore? Or however the quote goes.
And Patrick slowly walking away.
Yeah, there's so many good. Patrick has such a presence in that episode, even though he's not in it.
It's really good.
Doesn't he walk away with no expression on his face also?
Yeah.
He doesn't even get angry or anything. He just walks away.
He has a board nailed to his
head.
The
cutaway of a board nailed on his head. I think my favorite one from that episode is SpongeBob trying to cover for Mystery being in the kitchen when Mr. Krabs accuses him of having an animal at his workstation. He says he was working on his impression of Mystery and gives a very a wee snaw. And Mr. Krabs tells him that he has to keep working on it. But I really like the sad, pathetic wee snaw. That doesn't sound anything like what he's trying to imitate.
I think mine is very easy. It's from the Squidward's Krabby Patty episodes, and I quote it all the time, which is, everyone goes, "It's good for your soul." Squidward going, "I have no soul," with the fire and brimstone. Is something I will quote every day of my life, and I feel it so much. Just whenever they added the hell noises. It is such a good bit. They do it a few times, and every single time I'm like, this is a good bit. This is a fantastic bit.
There's so many. The problem is, like, a lot of the ones that immediately come to my mind are, like, beloved episodes. Like, I can't say anything from, even though it's my favorite episode, the Krabby Patty training video, because, like, everybody knows that entire...
Sounds like a lot of...
Yeah. Oh, poop. But, you know, I would say one that I quote, that it almost isn't a joke. It's just so funny and the line delivery is so good, is from the algae's always greener, and that you think this is funny in a cosmic sort of way. Yes. It's just like that whole the episode's so good. And then I mentioned the holographic meatloaf thing beforehand.
Yeah. Oh,
and
I have
then
one more,
one that very quick, just one that like my dad and I quote all the time is that whenever like he's in the kitchen and we'll say like, "Hey, Wyatt, can you grab me a lid?" I would just say the lid, and then we would just go off on like the lid. The lid. The lid. Yeah. Just very good, very wholesome, you know, just that kind of stuff. Even like now, whenever I go to like a party or whatever and we're putting away food afterwards, still make those jokes as a 30-year-old. So
they're good. The other one is, it's a very strong early episode. But the guy goes, "Hey, I just got my license." SpongeBob, "I'm getting mine next." Hey, I doubt it. That is like truly. I think like underrated. The fish people being the meanest motherfuckers consistently, like just all the way through. Everyone's like, "Oh, we're gonna take from the talking cheese," and I'm like, "Yo, everyone in this town is so fucking mean. Is this Jersey? Is this South Jersey?"
I do want to point out that there's an interesting phenomenon that I noticed, and maybe it's different now, but I remember, especially on like, you know, on Twitter and Tumblr and stuff, that when people would like make jokes or reference SpongeBob or like post scenes, just like post a screen cap or whatever, it's always season 1 that they do, even though like in my head I always consider like season 2, 3 like they have like the most iconic episodes. But like when people say like, "Oh, this is the funniest SpongeBob quote," they'll post like a mildly funny like thing from season 1, and I was like, that's not even in my like top 30 funny like SpongeBob quote. It's just like a weird phenomenon that, and I don't want to be too like elitist nerd guy about this, but it to me, if I could guess what it is, it's just people that haven't really revisited the show, and like those, like they're just like, "Oh, these are the episodes that I watched on reruns way more than like maybe season 2 or 3, which were newer, so they reran less." And then those are the ones that like stick in my memory. And since I haven't gone back and like revisited it, unlike me who like all the time, I just go and like watch
the Superior Wyatt.
Yeah. But it's just like, you know, that I just want to bring that up as this is like an interesting thing, is that as popular as the show is, season 1 seems to be the one that like, you know, I mean, a lot of the memes, like the SpongeBob pretending to be a jellyfish and he's like running from Patrick and he's, you know, hides behind that rock and puts his hand in the wall and is like exhaling. That's like that's a popular one. I don't know. There's it's just like an interesting little thing that season 1 seems to have stuck around. I don't see that with like Simpsons. Like when people talk about like funny Simpsons quotes or whatever, like season 1, 2, and 3 even are kind of like all sort of like nobody is quoting those like good episodes in all those seasons. Don't get me wrong, like very, very good episodes. But when people are quoting it, it's usually like 4 and onward, like the post Klasky Chupo seasons, and especially like 7 and 8, the like those two very joke heavy, very quotable seasons. So
okay,
yeah, I don't know, there you go.
We have a behemoth here.
Okay. That's right, yeah, we're almost 2 hours into recording this episode.
I still have things to say, but honestly, we got to kill this. We got to.
That is true. I was gonna say
this is a monster.
I guess it's one thing that we forgot to mention, just real quick, is that we talked about the voice actors. We didn't talk about Sandy's voice actress, really, which is, what's her name? Carol Lawrence. Yeah.
Carolyn Lawrence, yeah.
And she's the only other voice I really know her from, besides Ashley from Resident Evil 4. The only other cartoon voice is Oral from Oral, which is...
She's also Cindy.
Yeah, Cindy and Jimmy Neutron.
Yeah, I mean...
Oh,
Wow.
don't you fucking start.
Oh
Jimmy
no,
Neutron,
you're
you
one
piece
of
of
those
shit.
guys who wasn't.
Oh my god.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, we
know,
gotta
we're
wrap
Wyatt,
this
Nick-
up. Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Nick is me and you. Nick is me and you. We're the new buffoons. Fuck
Wyatt,
Wyatt. We're gonna talk
Wyatt,
about Jimmy
you need
Neutron.
to rewatch Jimmy Neutron if you haven't. It's really
Okay.
funny. I kind of just laugh seeing like images of Jimmy Neutron just because it just kind of looks naturally funny. There's like a jankiness that's really appealing, I think.
Dude, I'm playing a PS2 game.
The
It's the
thing
thing
is,
about
like,
Jimmy Neutron.
Yeah,
I did rewatch But Ugly Martians fairly recently, and that show's fucking horrible. Like, it's
You
not...
rewatched.
Why the fuck are you comparing Butt Ugly Martians and Jimmy
When did
Neutron?
you
Because it's
watch
another,
Butt
like,
Ugly
podcast.
Martians? Do you have to to rewatch Butt Ugly Martians? You have to have watched it once. Did you feel
Oh, yeah.
compelled
What the fuck's
to,
wrong with
like
you?
in full? at any
Well,
point in
I
your
guess
life?
rewatch in the sense that I watched some episodes as a kid and then rewatched like recently. Remember when I bought the like press kit?
You bought the Bible. It has like a little Bible in it,
It's
right?
like the story by like
Yeah.
there's like
What the fuck? What kind of cretin is like, you know what I need to watch today? Some Butt Ugly Martians.
It's fucking
Jesus
horrible.
Christ.
It's not good.
We
but
Yeah, I sure bet it isn't.
yeah,
Like,
but I'm sure Junior Neutron's fine. Anyway, I just want to bring up like she is a great voice actress, and she does like
Yeah, she's very good.
even if it's a cartoony Texas accent, it's just like very charming. Sandy in general, just a very very charming character, and I also find it very funny. I did not know this until looking on the SpongeBob wiki here for a second, that there becomes like a plot point where Sandy becomes friends with like Pearl and Karen and Mrs. Puff.
yeah.
So it's just like the show has accidentally created a really good and diverse cast of female characters, despite the
Yeah.
fact that Sandy is the only real main among those. Those other three over the course of the show became sort of more prominent main characters. So now it's like, oh, here's like Sandy, who's like an adult. There's Pearl, who's a teenager. Karen, who's a robot, and then Mrs. Puff, who's like a
Damn.
middle-aged woman. Like
my
all
favorite gender
friends.
robot. My,
Yeah.
my
A little
favorite
reductive on Karen over here. A little reductive on Karen.
Yeah,
But,
but
yeah,
it's-
she's also.
Yeah.
I guess one thing about her performance also, she's also Ornery Sue when we watch Party Wagon,
That is true.
which is like the breakout character from that for me. She was very fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was Party Wagon's really good. Anyway, it's
Yeah,
weird that we're not doing Hey Arnold for this miniseries.
Listen, guys, next year we're not doing Nickelodeon.
Yeah, we're doing
2 years from now,
Uh-huh.
we will do Jimmy Neutron, and I can fucking scream at Wyatt about how fucking good it is.
Watch Planet Sheen.
All right,
I wouldn't
okay,
go
all right.
that far.
Let's see. God, you're so fucking obtuse, Wyatt. God.
Anyway, Nick,
Nick, thank you very much.
thank you for joining us
Yeah.
for 2 hours talking about SpongeBob.
Oh, and we could go for two
oh,
more,
we're
I'm
s-
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, we're so lame. I love it here.
Yeah. So, again, thank you for joining us. How about you plug yourself and let everybody know where they can find you?
Yeah, well, you can find me on x.com.
Okay, yeah.
yeah, formerly Twitter, at It's Nicktendo. That's my @. Also on Blue Sky. See if I can. Can we hit 1,000 followers on Blue Sky? That's my dream. I love it.
Yeah.
Even though I don't post on there as much as I want to, as I should to achieve that goal. That'd be great. But yeah, Nicktendo reviews. That's my YouTube channel. Look
Yep.
forward to videos when I have the time to work on them. I
Yeah.
have a big Adventure Time video that will come out
Cool.
in the spring. It definitely needs to. It's like a sunk cost fallacy kind of thing where it needs to happen because I put a lot of time into it already with a lot of writing and research.
But yes, that's an exciting thing to look forward to.
Cool.
Hell yeah.
And
No one. I was gonna say no one can blame you for taking time on an Adventure Time thing because it's a big.
oh
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a big one.
Well,
It's a big one.
well,
yeah.
you'll see. It's not quite about the show, but you'll see. It'll make sense when it happens. This is a pretty big
Yeah.
project.
Okay.
And you have a good amount of SpongeBob videos.
Yes,
too,
yeah,
so-
I have a lot of SpongeBob videos. I did one on last summer on all the spin-offs and how one of them is good.
Yeah.
Patrick Star Show, big fan of that, and I think that's
Yeah,
a
you told me like I should check it out.
yes,
and
I
I'm like,
recommended
yeah,
it to you. Yeah. I think that's a good. There's a lot of misconceptions about the spin-offs, and there's a lot of generalizations, and I think some Patrick Star Show especially picked up in quality. They switched to doing board-driven like classic SpongeBob, and the quality picked up. And I wouldn't say it's like nearly as good as these classic episodes, but I think something that they share is that, if it's funny, you can kind of overlook a weaker story or weaker story structure.
Yeah.
Big agree. Yeah.
And I that's probably like my most, like a lot of my interest in SpongeBob mostly just comes from that. And
yeah, I agree.
yeah, so that's a good place to start if you're coming from here and we're like, wow, this guy really knows a lot about SpongeBob. And there's definitely going to be more down the line. Not sure what'll happen, but yeah, definitely more SpongeBob videos to come. And thank you guys for having me on again. It was nice coming
Yeah,
back after
absolutely.
Powerpuff.
Yeah.
The day after there was a leaked clip of the CW
That's
of
true.
Powerpuff Girls.
We can't. I feel like I met my soulmate and she died. I am like crying. That fucking show was made for me. That CW show, it looked so bad, and oh my god, I'm mourning it. I'm
Yeah.
gonna like dig a grave plot and fucking throw some flowers in it because I didn't get to see the. Guys, we could have had woke Buttercup.
I know.
Fuck.
That's like your Riverdale, basically. Like your
Dude. Nigga, no, that's my Citizen Kane. What
Yeah.
are you talking about? Like,
We could be
Okay.
on season 4 of Powerpuff Guys. It could be,
Yeah.
yeah.
oh, dude, we would have canceled this fucking show. I would have did that instead.
yeah. That is fun. Speaking of that, I really liked in your most recent video talking about like cartoons from the past few years that you didn't just be like Vilma sucks. You actually did try to talk about it like in a very even-handed way. Even though I like read the comments and some people are like, you were too nice to Velma.
I'm
Why
always
did you-"
too nice because I say a
It's
positive
like, what the
thing.
fuck? Yeah, exactly. Like every fucking time you make a thing where it's like, oh, I like Thundercats Roar. They're like, fuck you. Why do you like this? Like, I don't know what you want from me. Like, this is just-
Yeah.
The YouTube machine is made for unreasonable hate.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
And me saying this as an unreasonable hater.
Yeah.
I do hate it when people do that. Like listen, dude, no one wants to hear me fucking bitch for 26
Yes.
minutes. Come on.
Yeah.
Like
It's just not. I don't
Anyway.
even feel that. We've talked about it, but it's just not fun putting
Yeah.
that out into the world. I think.
it weighs on you.
Yeah.
Like you can't that can't be the only content you make.
Yeah.
And this is funny because if anyone follows me, they know I love the bitch. But like
Yeah.
I also have to talk about things I enjoy. You
I
gotta
don't think we
balance
had
it.
one good thing to say about Robot Boy when we talked about it.
And that's why we talked about something we had some good things to say.
Yeah, you balanced it
But
out.
we fucking pivoted.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like if you're covering a bunch of topics, like the 2023 and 2024 video, which I highly recommend, the algorithm killed that thing, and I'm super proud of it. I feel like I tried to keep a balance between things I was passionate about liking and not liking, and I think you gotta find things that you like. Are you not nitpicking? There's like a balance when it comes to criticism.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, sure, I guess sometimes I probably am too nice, but I don't know. A lot of people put a lot of effort into something, and you gotta kind of approach it from that's like part of the perspective, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too. I think that's why when we get to Magic Partners a Monkey, we're gonna have only good things to say about it. So
Suck my ass.
Of course, I love all the board artists and the writers and the layout artists and the composers and the voice actors.
And all the Korean animators.
I love the Korean animators and the studio that they outsourced to that wasn't paid as well as the Korean animators, and the people in the canned music that did all the canned music that's from SpongeBob, that also in SpongeBob a lot. Isn't that right? Isn't there a lot of like My Gym Partner's a Monkey music that's also in SpongeBob because they use the same music library?
That sounds correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does have a very library sound to it. So I would be shocked if or I wouldn't be shocked if that were the case. But anyway.
I genuinely need to watch My Gym Partner's a Monkey. No, I'm saying this because I threw on a no. I threw on a random episode from season 4, and it seemed like no one cared, and it was really, really funny. So I kind of
that's how I would just, dude. Though, oh my god, it was very funny because I tried to interview, or I guess I did interview I will talk about this in that episode, but I asked some questions for one of the creators, and I straight up did try to ask, like, why did the final season feel like absolutely nobody cared about what they were creating? Like, I tried to ask that, like, as nicely as possible.
Yeah, like it's like a real person, like a real interviewer.
Right.
Yeah.
But then she was like, I don't know, we were just making a show. Like, it wasn't really any different from the previous season, so I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, okay, I guess never mind.
I swear the episode I watched was from the last season. Yeah.
They can't tell you like straight up. Oh, who fucking gave a shit?
Yeah,
That's the thing. Like, I thought it would be because with Camp Laszlo, the thing was like so much of the staff got laid off during the Where's Laszlo movie. So like that was like one of the last things that they finished, and then like season 5 was like very slow going because I think like Thorup Van Orman and J.G. Quintella and stuff like that, they were working on Flapjack at that time, and just like a lot of the staff had like moved on to other things, so there was just like or had been laid off, so it was a very low, like there weren't that many people doing stuff like in the studio, so like that's why it had this sort of like who gives a shit vibe to it. I understand that, and there's still good episodes in season 5, but like with My Gym Partner's a Monkey, you get to the end and it's like, wow, they really do not care at all about what the show is supposed to be. So anyway, that good video, Nick, great, thumbs up. YouTube channel, check out good stuff. Anyway, Morgan, how about you?
Yeah, you can find me on Tumblr at Girl Next Vor. One word, like Girl Next Door, but it's about vor. I'm also on Blue Sky, same name.
Yep.
I post art. I post about TV shows, mostly vampire related stuff. I don't shut the fuck up. Biggest issue. You do have to get there quickly to Blue Sky though, because I heard that an Alaskan bullworm is on its way to that website to devour it. So you gotta follow me ASAP before it gets there.
Yeah.
I don't know, Morgan. Some people like things that are big and hairy, like the Alaskan bullworm.
Hey,
and pink.
Hey, whoa, and pink, and we'll swallow
That's
you.
right.
That's one of those.
That's
one of those like underrated thing. Like the pink being like written in cursive. It's very funny to me. So,
Wyatt, where can we find you last week?
All right. Well, I'm on Twitter and Blue Sky at Wasp Ranger, WAZP Ranger. Mostly stream of consciousness stuff, but I do post about podcasts or videos that I'm making. I actually started writing a script for a new video, shockingly. So maybe I'll go back to making videos on this channel instead of just posting cartoon buffoons. And there you go. And the channel is It's Only Magic. If you're on here already, big thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button, baby. If you're not on the channel, you're on the Patreon, thank you.
Oh, my God.
Because you're donating at the $3 level, which is what everybody needs to do in order to get these episodes a week early. But if you only got $1, that's fine. You'll also get something. You get Raw Cool Robot, which is me and my friend Wayne going through and reviewing every single robot in existence. It's 5 to 10 minute episodes. It's a good time. And then also, I believe this will have been posted. This definitely will have been posted on Cody's channel, which is just Cody Briscoe. Is Horror Hole, a series that we've been doing where we're just going back and forth and picking horror movies and talking about them, because we had like some more gimmicky podcasts that we were doing and talking, and at the end of the day we're just like, fuck it, we just want to, who cares? Who cares? It's 2025. Like, just whatever. Just be like, here, let's watch a movie and talk. Let's talk about Midsummer. You know, let's talk about Barbarian, things like that. We're having a good time. The Five Nights at Freddy's movie, terrible, really bad. I don't know. I know nothing about Five Nights at Freddy's lore, but that movie, like, that was my first exposure to it. Was that movie?
How about? Well, no, wait. Scott is like a mega Republican. Never mind.
Well, he's like, yeah, he's like a crazy Mormon guy. But you know, that's another thing. But anyway, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you guys.
Our next episode
Nick.
is also going to be a Nickelodeon show, and we're gonna
should we say what it is? Because I don't
Yes.
know. I Morgan don't know.
We're going to be doing As Told by Ginger as our next
Oh my
show.
God! Fucking other sides of the spectrum here. Let's go.
Yeah, we're getting a little down and dirty with
Somebody told me to go.
Macy Gray, baby. All right, thank you so much.
Later, everybody.
See you next week.